I spent 10 years building someone else's dream while mine collected dust in a drawer. And the worst part? I thought I was doing the right thing. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you some fairy tale about how I quit my job on a Tuesday and became a millionaire by Friday. That's not what this is about. This is about the lie we've all been sold. The one that says security is more important than happiness. The one that makes you think passion is a luxury you can't afford. I believed that lie, and it almost destroyed me. So here's what happened. I graduated college with a degree in engineering, not because I loved engineering, but because everyone told me it was smart, safe, good money. My parents were proud. My teachers nodded in approval. Society gave me a big thumbs up. I was on the right path. I got a job at a good company, wore a tie every day, had health insurance and a 401k. On paper, I was winning. But every single morning when that alarm went off, I felt this weight on my chest, like someone was sitting on me. I'd stare at the ceiling and think, another day of this. The work itself wasn't even that bad. I mean, it was boring as hell, but it wasn't terrible. The real problem was deeper than that. I'd spend 8 hours a day solving problems I didn't care about, making products I'd never use, sitting in meetings that could have been emails. And all the while there was this voice in the back of my head whispering, this isn't it. I tried to ignore it. I really did. I told myself what everyone else was telling me. Be grateful. Lots of people would kill for this job. You're being irresponsible. Grow up. Pay your bills. This is what adults do. So I pushed that voice down. I buried it under Netflix binges and weekend drinking. I convinced myself that work wasn't supposed to be fulfilling. That's why they call it work, right? You do it so you can enjoy your 2 weeks of vacation and your Saturdays. That's the deal. That's life. But here's the thing about that voice. It doesn't go away. It gets louder. And the more you ignore it, the angrier it gets. Mine started showing up in weird ways. I'd get irritable for no reason. I'd snap at my girlfriend. I stopped working out. I ate like garbage. I felt tired all the time, even though I wasn't doing anything physically demanding. My friends started asking if I was okay. I'd tell them I was just stressed, just busy, just tired. But deep down, I knew what was wrong. I was living someone else's life. I was playing a character in a movie I didn't even want to watch. The breaking point came on a random Wednesday. Nothing special about that day. I was sitting in my cubicle, staring at a spreadsheet that meant absolutely nothing to me. And I just started crying. Not like dramatic sobbing, just tears running down my face while I sat there completely still. I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the person staring back. When did I get these lines on my forehead? When did my eyes start looking so dead? I was only 28 years old and I looked exhausted, defeated. That night, I went home and did something I hadn't done in years. I opened that drawer, the one where I kept all my old notebooks from high school and college, the ones filled with ideas and sketches and dreams. I used to want to be a writer, not a technical writer for some corporation, an actual writer. Stories, books, things that made people feel something. I'd written half a novel when I was 21. It was probably terrible. I don't even know. I never finished it, because everyone told me that wasn't realistic. You can't make money writing. You need a backup plan. You need security. So I got my engineering degree. My backup plan became my only plan. And my real plan? It got shoved in a drawer. I stayed up until 3 in the morning reading through those notebooks, and I realized something that made me feel sick. I hadn't just given up on writing. I'd given up on myself. I'd traded who I was for who I thought I should be. And the worst part, nobody forced me to do it. I made that choice. Every single day for 10 years, I chose safety over truth. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to quit their job and follow some crazy dream, but I am saying this. You need to be honest with yourself about what you're sacrificing. Because there's always a cost, always. You might be sacrificing your health, your relationships, your sanity, your soul. And for what? A paycheck? A title? Other people's approval? I started asking myself hard questions that night. If I died tomorrow, would I be proud of how I spent my time? If I kept doing this for another 10 years, who would I become? Could I look my future kids in the eye and tell them to follow their dreams when I didn't follow mine? The answer to all of those questions was no. Something clicked that night. Not like some magical moment where everything became clear. More like something broke. A dam that had been holding back all this pressure for years. And once it broke, there was no putting it back together. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to quit my job the next day. I'm not stupid. I had bills. But I decided I was going to start doing what I loved again, even if it was just for 30 minutes a day, even if it never made me a single dollar. Because doing what you love isn't about money. It's about remembering who you are. I woke up an hour earlier every morning. While everyone else was sleeping, I wrote. Some days it was good. Most days it was trash. But it didn't matter. Because for that 1 hour, I felt alive. I felt like myself. I felt like I had a reason to be here beyond just paying rent and buying groceries. And something weird started happening. The rest of my day got better. I still hated my job, but it didn't crush me anymore. Because I had something that was mine. Something that nobody could take from me. My co-workers would complain about how much they hated Mondays, and I'd just nod along. But inside, I didn't care. Because I knew that before they even woke up, I'd already spent an hour doing what I loved. After 6 months of this, I had about 100 pages of a new novel. Was it going to be published? Probably not. Did it matter? Not even a little bit. Because I proved something to myself. I proved that I could still create. That I wasn't just a cog in some machine, that the person I used to be was still in there somewhere. But here's where it gets interesting. That hour I was spending on my writing started bleeding into other parts of my life. I started cooking real food again instead of eating fast food every night. I started going to the gym. I called my mum more. I was more patient with my girlfriend. It was like waking up from a coma, like someone turned the color back on in my life. My girlfriend noticed. She told me I seemed different, lighter. I told her about the writing and she asked why I'd ever stopped in the first place. I didn't have a good answer. Just a bunch of excuses that sounded hollow when I said them out loud. She asked me what I'd do if money wasn't an issue. Without hesitating, I said I'd write full-time. She asked why I wasn't doing that then. I started listing all the reasons. The mortgage, the car payment, health insurance, retirement, all the adult responsibilities that keep us trapped in lives we don't want. She listened to all of it, and then she said something that changed everything. She said, "So you're going to spend the next 40 years being miserable so you can retire and finally be happy. That's the plan." When she put it like that, it sounded insane, because it was insane. I was betting my entire life on some future version of myself that might not even exist. What if I died before retirement? What if I got sick? What if I finally retired at 65 and realized I was too old and tired to do any of the things I'd been putting off? We spent the next month having real conversations about what kind of life we wanted. Not the life we thought we should want, the life we actually wanted. And we realized we'd been playing it safe for so long that we'd forgotten what we were even playing for. So we made a plan, a real one this time. We cut our expenses in half, moved to a cheaper apartment, sold the fancy car and bought something used, cancelled subscriptions we didn't use, started cooking every meal at home. We were preparing for something even though we didn't know exactly what yet. After another 6 months, I had enough money saved to take a big risk. I quit my job. No backup plan, no safety net. Just 6 months of savings and a dream that everyone told me was stupid. The first month was terrifying. I'd wake up in a panic thinking about all the what-ifs. What if I couldn't make it work? What if I ran out of money? What if everyone was right and I was just being naive and irresponsible? But then something amazing happened. I finished my novel. Not the one from when I was 21. A new one, a better one. I spent 12 hours a day writing and it didn't even feel like work. Time would just disappear. I'd look up and realize I'd been sitting at my laptop for 6 hours straight, and I felt energized, not drained. That's when I realized the difference between working a job you hate and doing what you love. When you hate what you do, every minute feels like an hour. When you love what you do, hours feel like minutes. It's not about working less. It's about working on something that matters to you. I sent my manuscript to about 50 literary agents, got rejected by 49 of them. The 50th one said maybe. We had a phone call. She gave me a bunch of notes on how to make it better. I spent another 3 months rewriting the entire thing. She read it again, and then she offered to represent me. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I sold my book for millions of dollars, and now I'm rich and famous. That didn't happen. My book got published by a small press. I made about $7,000 from it. That's not enough to live on. But you know what? I didn't care. Because I did it. I actually did it. The thing everyone told me was impossible. I started working on my second book while taking on freelance writing gigs to pay the bills. The freelance work wasn't always exciting, but it was still writing. And it was mine. I was building something. Slowly, imperfectly. But it was real. 3 years later, I'm not rich. I don't have a fancy car or a big house. But I wake up every day excited about what I'm going to work on. I go to bed tired but satisfied. I'm not watching the clock. I'm not counting down to Friday. I'm not living for some distant retirement that may never come. I'm living now. Here's what I learned from all of this. Doing what you love isn't some privilege reserved for trust fund kids and lucky people. It's a choice, a hard choice, a choice that requires sacrifice. But not the kind of sacrifice you think. We think sacrifice means giving up stability and security. But what about the sacrifice you're making right now? What about sacrificing your happiness, your peace of mind, your health, your relationships, your soul? Why is that sacrifice acceptable but the other one isn't? Society has this backwards. We think the responsible thing is to get a stable job, buy stuff, and push our dreams aside. But what's responsible about spending your entire life doing something that makes you miserable? What's responsible about teaching your kids that happiness doesn't matter as long as the bills are paid? I'm not saying money doesn't matter, it does. You need to eat, you need shelter. But most of us need way less than we think we do. We've convinced ourselves that we need the new phone, the nice car, the big house, the expensive vacations. And maybe we do need those things to be happy in the life we're currently living. But what if we change the life instead of buying more stuff to make it bearable? Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. If you're waiting for the perfect time to do what you love, you're going to be waiting forever. There's never going to be a perfect time. There's always going to be a reason not to do it. Bills, responsibilities, fear, other people's opinions, the economy, your age, your lack of experience, your lack of connections. The list is endless. But none of those reasons change this simple fact. Your time here is limited. Every day you spend doing something you hate is a day you'll never get back. You can't save time. You can't invest it and get more later. You're spending it right now whether you like it or not. The only question is what you're spending it on. And I know what you're thinking. But I have kids. I have a mortgage. I can't just quit and follow my dreams. I'm not telling you to quit tomorrow. I'm telling you to start. Start small. Wake up an hour earlier. Stay up an hour later. Use your lunch break. Find 30 minutes somewhere in your day to do the thing you actually care about. Because here's what happens when you do that. You remember who you are. You reconnect with the part of yourself that got buried under all the shoulds and have-tos. And once you reconnect with that part, it starts growing. It starts demanding more time, more attention, more of your life. And that's when things start to change. Maybe you don't quit your job. Maybe you find a way to incorporate what you love into your current work. Maybe you switch to a different job that's closer to what you want. Maybe you start a side project that eventually becomes your main thing. There's no one right path. But there is a wrong one. And that's doing nothing at all. I think about all the time I wasted, 10 years of my life spent building someone else's dream instead of my own. And yeah, I have regrets about that. But I also know that those 10 years taught me something valuable. They taught me what I don't want. And sometimes that's just as important as knowing what you do want. The biggest lie we tell ourselves is that we have time. We tell ourselves we'll do it later. After we save enough money, after the kids grow up, after we pay off the house, after we retire. But later is a fantasy. Later doesn't exist. There's only now. And now is all you've got. This moment. Today, not tomorrow, not next year. Not when things calm down or when you have more money or when you feel ready. You're never going to feel ready. Fear doesn't go away. Doubt doesn't disappear. You just have to do it anyway. Doing what you love isn't easy. Let me be clear about that. It's actually harder than doing what you hate. Because when you do what you hate, you can blame everyone else. Your boss, the economy, your circumstances. But when you're doing what you love, it's on you. If it doesn't work out, you can't blame anyone else. That's scary. But you know what's scarier? Getting to the end of your life and realizing you never even tried. Realizing you spent your whole life playing it safe. And you have nothing to show for it except a bunch of stuff you don't care about and a resume full of jobs that meant nothing to you. I talk to a lot of people who tell me they wish they could do what I'm doing. And I always tell them the same thing. You can. You absolutely can. It won't look exactly like my path because you're not me, but you can find a way to do more of what you love and less of what you hate. It's just a question of whether you're willing to make it a priority, because that's really what it comes down to. Priorities. Everyone says their dream is important to them, but then they spend zero time on it. They spend hours watching TV, scrolling social media, doing things that don't matter, and they wonder why their dream never happens. Your dream isn't going to fall into your lap. Nobody's going to knock on your door and hand you your perfect life. You have to build it. One day at a time. 1 hour at a time. One decision at a time. And some of those decisions are going to be hard. You might have to give up things. Comfort, security, other people's approval, your ego, the image of yourself that you've been carrying around. But what you get in return is so much better. You get yourself back. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. That guy was lost, angry, disconnected. He was sleepwalking through life. The person I am now is awake, present, alive. I have problems. I have stress. I have bad days. But I'm engaged with my life instead of hiding from it. And that makes all the difference. When people ask me if I regret leaving my stable job, I laugh. How could I regret it? Sure, I make less money. Sure, I have less security. But I have more life, more joy, more meaning, more myself, and you can't put a price on that. The question isn't whether you can afford to do what you love. The question is whether you can afford not to. Because the cost of ignoring your dreams isn't just the dream itself, it's everything else. Your health suffers. Your relationships suffer. Your mental state suffers. You start to resent everyone around you because they're living their lives while you're stuck in yours. Look, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I don't know your situation. I don't know your struggles. But I do know this. You have one life, one chance, one shot at this whole existence thing. And you're spending it right now, so what are you spending it on? Are you building something that matters to you? Are you doing something that makes you feel alive? Or are you just going through the motions? Checking boxes, doing what you're supposed to do? Because if it's the latter, I need you to hear this. It's not too late. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how far off track you've gotten. It doesn't matter how long you've been ignoring that voice in your head. You can change direction. Today, right now. Start small if you have to. But start. Give yourself permission to want something different. Permission to try. Permission to fail. Permission to be more than just a productive member of society. Permission to be human. The world doesn't need more people doing jobs they hate to buy things they don't need. The world needs people who are alive, engaged, creating, contributing something real, something that comes from who they actually are, not who they think they should be. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to take the first step, and then the next one, and then the next one. And before you know it, you'll look back and realize you've traveled further than you ever thought possible. Your dreams aren't stupid. Your passion isn't a waste of time. That thing you love doing, it matters. Maybe not to everyone, maybe not to most people, but it matters to you. And that's enough. Don't let fear steal your life from you. Don't let other people's limitations become your own. Don't wait until it's too late to become who you were always meant to be. The draw doesn't have to be where your dreams go to die. It can be where they go to rest until you're ready to wake them up again. And you can be ready right now if you choose to be. If this hit you, watch the next video.